So, over the last couple of weeks, I have basically just kind of been in awe at just how bad Battlefield 2042 launched. The reception across the internet has been nothing short of just overwhelmingly negative. And in the wake of Battlefield 2042 launching, a lot of changes are happening behind the scenes over at DICE. Oscar Gabrielson, the general manager of Battlefield developers DICE, is leaving the studio after nearly a decade at the company. And this is one of the least surprising changes out of everything that we have seen kind of fall out from Battlefield 2042. But before we get into it, I want to thank today's sponsor. World of Tanks is an online multiplayer tank battle game that features tons of artillery, light, medium, heavy tanks, tank destroyers, and everything in between. There's over 550 of these tanks that you can basically play however you want. These tanks, count the number of times I say tanks during this ad, they've been built on historical accuracy with authentic models and vehicle characteristics. You can earn experience, modify, and upgrade your tanks as you roll across hills and fields, with maps featuring different urban and industrial zones with over 40 battle arenas and maps to choose from and fight in. The game is completely free to play and actually has been played by over 100 million players to date. I actually have some content on my channel from the game itself. You can use the code TANKMANIA when you register for a nice little starter pack containing a heavy tank, 250k credits, and 7 days premium access, as well as accessing 3 tanks to test out. The link is down below in the description and the top pinned comment. Let's move away from tanks and start talking about a different kind of battlefield. So an article just came out of Polygon a couple of days ago that I never covered because there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes at Battlefield. But basically, EA shakes up Battlefield franchise as DICE head leaves the studio. So if you guys don't remember Oscar Gabrielson, he was in all the interviews, he was the face of everything, and 2 weeks after the game comes out, he's moving on. And with him leaving, they're bringing on some pretty heavy hitters in the entertainment industry. They're bringing Vince Zampella, co-founder of Apex Legends and the creator of Titanfall, developer Respawn Entertainment. He is now going to oversee the Battlefield franchise going forward. A lot of people have a weird kind of ominous feeling about Vince Zampella, but I will say he was the studio head and the CEO of Infinity Ward during, I would say, its peak in the Call of Duty franchise. From January 2002 to March of 2010, he's the one who gave us games like Modern Warfare 1 and 2. He also is the one who created Titanfall. He started Respawn Entertainment in 2010, and honestly, out of all of the FPS franchises that EA has put out over the past 10 years, Titanfall was actually one of the better games. Apex Legends was built upon that. EA killed Medal of Honor, and well, we're going to get into why they're killing Battlefield moving forward, but he is coming in. We also have Marcus Leto. He's the co-creator of Halo and head of the new EA development studio, and he's apparently going to be helming efforts to bring world building and narrative into Battlefield. I really don't get why we couldn't have a single player campaign to, world build and talk about lore. But to me, reading this article, the future of Battlefield sounds pretty good, right? Well, no, it doesn't. Tom Henderson has heard from people a part of the studio, kind of behind the scenes, and he basically has given us a full summary of 2042's development, why it turned to shit, and what they're doing for the future of the Battlefield franchise, and it's fucking terrible. Developers started leaving during the release of Battlefield 5 as EA wanted to compete against other games like BRs and other normal shooters, and their concepts internally were never even given a look at, so people who were angry left. EA basically gave the memo to DICE to copy what's popular. Classes were scrapped in early 2020. Working from home with cross-gen was a massive pain. Of course, 5 different platforms with hardware being shared remotely. Working through COVID is a valid excuse here. If only we would have went next-gen only. But it is what it is. The game was shifted from a BR which it originally was a fucking BR title, between the months of April and August of 2020. So literally a year and a half ago, the game was a battle royale. Basically 18 months of development time went into creating a game with 128 players and specialists. The game's original concept was shifted into Hazard Zone. August of 2020 is when production really got started, a year and 3 months of true production. In March of 2021, DICE was overwhelmed and admitted that they needed help from others, but it wasn't easy again due to engine issues with lack of experience, even though a month prior to that, they go out on record and say that they're ahead of schedule. And it even says here, the idea of being ahead of schedule was a lie. Past and current DICE devs say that it was based on baseless predictions. It was a total fabrication of the current state of the game. They fucking lied to everybody. Later on in months, it became obvious so many issues like UI were creeping up and causing many issues, and I think back to when we first saw the gameplay snippets on Twitter and people were critiquing the UI. They came out again and defended and said they have some of the best people. We have some of the best people in the industry working on our UI. That was obviously a lie because internal devs said that they knew it was fucked. To summarize the entirety of the 2042 development in the last paragraph here, the majority of development issues was a massive lack of time. They definitely could have benefited of an extra year or so in an era where delays of 3 to 6 months were common. And since so many people have left over the development time, the studio DICE is basically so different now that they had to rename it. They had to, create ripple effect, because it's not DICE of Battlefield 3 or Battlefield 2 or even Battlefield 4. All of those people fucked off and they went to either Respawn or they went to a studio called Embark, which just announced their brand new game that we're going to have to talk about in another video. Many projects were scrapped, including Bad Company 3, which EA thought wouldn't sell for some reason. It kind of goes back to what we said yesterday with the Ubisoft Courts thing. These companies have no idea what would actually sell in today's climate, and they just throw shit to the wall, try to copy what's popular and what they think is going to sell by alienating the original fan base that has followed this game. For me personally, I've been playing Battlefield since 1942, and 2042 was objectively the worst game in the series. Fuck all the server issues, fuck all that. The core design of that game is absolute trash. So one would logically think the negativity, the overwhelming just panning of Battlefield 2042 online would maybe make EA think twice, just scrap it and maybe just start fresh with a new idea and try to come correct. No, that wouldn't make any fucking sense, would it? The next Battlefield shooter is being scoped as a hero shooter. Most interestingly, it may be bands of specialists or heroes fighting against each other and not armies, which is even further away from what Battlefield 2042 already strayed from. This extended universe with all the lore that they brought the Halo co-creator on, well, that's specifically for adding depth to the specialists moving forward. A BR is apparently set to come in the near future, not in the next 6 months, but a very vague time frame has been placed on that. That said, things have absolutely not been set in stone, and DICE developers have been hard at work trying to fix the game to be good as possible. You can fix the server issues, you can fix the glitches, you can fix the weapon bloom, but you can't fix what Battlefield 2042 has strayed away from in terms of what Battlefield's core premise is. The game is just not a good Battlefield game. But people jumping in for the first time don't know that. They're playing an FPS that is trying to mimic other FPSs that they're playing. The younger crowd has no clue what could have been. And to be honest, this whole situation has woken me up even more. We gotta stop looking at development teams as the same people that have been there for 40 fucking years making the original games that were so good. When you look at 343 or when you look at Bungie, DICE, take any company that created a game that you enjoyed back in, say, the early 2000s or even like late 2009, 2010, those same people aren't at that studio anymore. We keep talking about, Ghost Recon and Ubisoft, those people that worked at Red Storm Entertainment that created those tactical games that we all love. They're no longer there. And it just kind of makes me kind of scared for the future. We're talking about games like Skate coming back, Skate 4. Oh, can't wait to see what that's going to be like. I know they have some of the original creators who worked on the original game, but who says something drastic isn't going to change in the next year, 2 years, that's going to completely turn that fucking franchise on its head, just like EA has done to almost every single fucking franchise that they have owned. Medal of Honor, where is it? You released a VR game last year that sucked. Titanfall you threw out between Call of Duty and Battlefield and basically let that franchise die. It turned into Apex Legends, which is actually a pretty solid shooter, and I'm glad that the person who, created and is working on that is now the head of Battlefield. But does it matter if your go-to is creating a hero shooter? Why wouldn't you just double down and work on Apex Legends and turn that into your premier multiplayer hero shooter instead of now creating Battlefield in the same vein as that to now compete with a franchise that you fucking own? None of these decisions make any sense. And while nothing's set in stone, if the next Battlefield game comes out, I'm not going to be excited for it, but if it doesn't even have classes and they double down on this stupid hero system that they've tried to shoehorn in for no reason other than to create some sort of diversity checklist, what's the point? The younger crowd's going to buy it, play it for a little while, and then jump to the next thing. Whereas if you would have created a game that had lasting power, like, I don't know, Battlefield 4, which is still being played today, maybe you could sell microtransactions to those diehard fans, but you gotta give them a good game up front. That's really all you have to do. But it feels like more and more studios just don't understand that. They're chasing the dollars up front, but don't see the value in keeping people long term. Even though the whole idea of games as a service is to keep people long term. And this is why I'm sitting here just thinking the whole industry is ass backwards. Regardless, the next Battlefield is set to be a hero shooter. I hope things change. I hope they get their heads out of their asses and give us a real Battlefield title. Don't know if that's going to happen. Only time will tell. If you guys like the video, leave a like on it. Subscribe for more FPS content. I don't know how much longer I can give you that. By this time next year, every gun in the game is going to be a fucking NFT. We'll see. Regardless, big shout out to World of Tanks for sponsoring this video. I appreciate it. Click the link down below if you guys do want to try out their new updates. My name is Big Fry, and I'll see you on the next one.